What's going on, everyone? This is Lucas Ross Sports, Lucas Ross, your commentator. We continue our 2022 college football predictions. The North Carolina Tar Heels are up next. I'll give you my thoughts on this team, give you my official prediction for this team, and go through their schedule, and I will go from there. But before we do that, let's look back at 2021 before this North Carolina team. Looking back at 2021 for North Carolina, they went 6-7 overall. I mean, this team, I was really high on them last year. They just did not have, the best season ever. I mean, I expected this team to be one of the top teams out of the Coastal Division last year. But look at the offense and defensive rankings last year for this team, 19th on offense and 105th on defense. So the defense, I think, really, gave up a little bit from last year's team. But I think this North Carolina team is perhaps better, but not really, on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're perhaps better. Offensively, though, they're going to, be young on that side of the ball. 35.2 points on the offensive side of the ball, and then 32.1 points given up on the defensive side of the ball last year. So those are the numbers for North Carolina. My thoughts on this team is that they're going to be really young on the offensive side. Defensively, they bring quite a bit back, but Sam Howell is gone. So, how does this North Carolina team do without him? Well, I think it's going to be a lot to, tell. I think it's going to come down to that quarterback position for North Carolina and that offense to score some points this year, and I think they will score some points. But here's the schedule for North Carolina for 2022 entering this year. You see they open up with Florida A&M on August 27th. That's a Week 0 matchup, and I think they do take care of business in this game. They start out 1-0. And there's no reason to lose that game. That's an obvious decision there. They should win that game there by at least, 30-something points. And then these next two games are not going to be easy. They're on the road. I know it's a non-conference game, but it is out of the Sun Belt. Appalachian State out of the Sun Belt, and then you get Georgia State out of the Sun Belt as well. These are perhaps, maybe top three teams out of the Sun Belt, but, I don't really think Georgia State isn't, but Appalachian State is a, dark horse, and also they're one of the most underdog teams in the Sun Belt this year. I think this is going to be a really tough game, and so is Georgia State, but I think North Carolina should go on the road and defeat both of these teams. I don't really see them, losing probably, but, Appalachian State, I see them potentially losing, but Georgia State, I don't really see them losing to them. And I think they do go on the road, though, and I think they do defeat both of these Sun Belt teams. But you never know. You never know. We've seen times where Sun Belt teams have upsetted, Power 5 schools, and it just happens. It happens a lot in college football, so really don't sleep on those two games. But I got them winning both of those games. They play Notre Dame next year on September 24th. They get a bye week before playing this game, which is good news. So you get a bye week rather early in the season, but both of these offenses are pretty young. They're both, really good defensive teams. I think this is a defensive battle probably the whole way. This game right here is a tough one to call, but I think I had to go with Notre Dame because I like Notre Dame's chances in this game, and I did Notre Dame's prediction last week, and I said I like Notre Dame just a little bit better than North Carolina, so I'm going to go ahead and go with the Irish to defeat North Carolina and give North Carolina their first loss of the season. They're now 3-1 as they enter October. Virginia Tech to begin that. The October schedule is not too tough, but if you look at some of these teams, they are pretty tough, but some of them are at home. Virginia Tech especially at home. Virginia Tech's going to be young on offense this year. Defensively, they bring quite a lot back. I think this is the same thing with the Notre Dame game. It's a defensive battle the whole way, but I think North Carolina, with it being a 50-50 game, I have to go with the home team advantage. And I'm going to go with the Tar Heels to defeat Virginia Tech in this game. I think they will defeat Virginia Tech, give, some momentum going in October, but I think they do defeat Virginia Tech by at least, maybe by a touchdown or maybe something like that. Maybe, also maybe 10 points or somewhere in that range. So I think it's a game that can go either way. So I think it's a defensive battle, but I see North Carolina being the favorite here with the home field advantage. Next game is on the road at Miami. Perhaps the toughest game, I think, for North Carolina on this schedule. I think it's really tough here, to go on the road to play Miami because Miami is an experienced team. They have a lot coming back on both sides of the ball. I just think North Carolina is just not going to be ready to play Miami in this game. I think they're going to be, overlooked a little bit. They were focused too much on Miami in this game. And I think they do lose on the road to Miami here, so that gives North Carolina their second loss of the season, and it comes to Miami on the road. Duke is next here on the road. I think this is some sort of trap game for North Carolina, but I don't really see it being a trap game. But I see it, a game that can maybe go either way in the first half. Duke's going to be really young this year, not really high on the Blue Devils. I think they'll struggle just a little bit, and I think North Carolina does go on the road and defeat Duke and give them a win there. So I think North Carolina, though, is the better team, clearly the favorite in this one probably as well. But I think Duke is somewhat of a trap-type game there. Just don't sleep on it. It's a rival game as well, so don't really sleep on it. Then North Carolina gets another bye week, and they play Pittsburgh here at home. That bye week really helps them out. This one is a tough game to call. Pittsburgh wind up being the best team in the Coastal Division last year, and I think they are going to be one of those top teams maybe in the Coastal Division this year. Tell you what, though, Pittsburgh has a lot coming back this year. A lot of production coming back on both sides of the ball. I think they're 32nd in the country in returning production, and I think it's going to really come down to that quarterback position for Pittsburgh. They lose Kenny Pickett. Yes, they lose Kenny Pickett, but I think this is a really tough game to call. But I like Pittsburgh in this game. I just think, with all the returning production coming back, I think they will. I think North Carolina's offense will compete, but it just depends if they can score some points. Can they stop this offense, though, for Pittsburgh? Can they stop them? Can this defense for North Carolina stop Pittsburgh? I don't think they will, but, it's a game that I can see going either way. I think it's, barely a touchdown favorite, though, for Pittsburgh, and I think with that, I think they will defeat North Carolina here. And I think they do give North Carolina their third loss of the season. So they head to the month of November now with a 5-3 overall record. They play Virginia here on the road. This is a trap game, I think, here for North Carolina, just coming off that Pittsburgh loss. It was heartbreaking. But Virginia is going to be really young this year. Defensively, they're going to be young. But offensively, they're going to be quite good on that side of the ball. But I think North Carolina, I think they're the much better team in this one, and I think they'll go on the road and defeat Virginia here. I'm not seeing Virginia being a big threat maybe this year in the, Coastal Division, but you never know. It's one of those trap games. I had to go with North Carolina, though. I think they do defeat Virginia here on the road on November 5th. Next game is on the road at Wake Forest. Tough place to play here. It's another game that can go either way, but I think Wake Forest is too talented. And I think I think with the talent they have coming back this year, I think they're going to easily beat North Carolina. I don't really see North Carolina, defeating Wake Forest here on the road. I think it will be a tough environment to play at. Georgia Tech is next year. I think North Carolina gets an easy win, though, here. I think it's one of those easy win games for North Carolina in this one. I think they do get an easy win here against Georgia Tech. I'm not really high on Georgia Tech either this year. I don't really see them being a big threat in the ACC. And besides, it's not a big deal if they lose to Georgia Tech, but I think it will be a big win there. Perhaps a 2-touchdown type game there. And then they end things out with NC State on November 25th. This one right here is probably a game that can go either way. I'm saying it as a 50-50 game, but I think NC State has the talent and the level, to compete in all these games as well. But NC State, I did pick them to win this game. Just the veteran experience on the offense and defensive side of the ball, I think it gets them done. I think North Carolina does lose that final game of the season. That game is on a Friday, so I think NC State, though, is clearly the better team. So my overall prediction for North Carolina is 7-5. I think that's a good prediction, but I can see this team going 6-6. I can see them going 6-6, perhaps. But what if they lose to Appalachian State on the road? That is going to be a tough one to call, but they could potentially lose to Virginia as well. This team could go 4-8, but I think 7-5 is a reasonable prediction for North Carolina. And that concludes my prediction for North Carolina here. College football predictions will continue throughout the week. Stay tuned here for more on Lucas Ross Sports.